welcome to the new ESE Equality, Diversity, Inclusion and Culture podcast, a place where we can talk about balancing life and work. My name is Becky Bell and I'm a reader in tectonics in ESE, and I'm currently the chair of the EDIC Committee. I'm also a parent to a toddler, and since coming back from maternity leave, one of the areas of my professional life which I've been really struggling to get back to is attending conferences, particularly international ones, where I would be away from home for 5 days or more. Before I had children, I was a big fan of attending conferences, and I've made lots of new collaborations, received invitations and opportunities because of being visible at conferences, so I really appreciate their value in terms of career development. When I became a parent in 2020, I had fully expected I would be that person who would carry my baby in a sling around the poster hall, not letting having children slow me down. However, the pandemic meant I never got an opportunity when my son was a baby to do that. And now we're back to in-person conferences. The idea of taking my toddler to a conference is now absolutely terrifying. But the logistics of organising childcare for the period I would be away and the extra workload that would then put on my husband is also off-putting. I'm not alone. We have posted links to a bunch of articles on the topic of children and conferences on the website where other people have shared their experiences. And many parents and carers are left wondering, should I stay at home and not go to the conference? Or perhaps should they, the children, go? Today, I am talking to Valentin Laurent, Senior Teaching Fellow in ESE, who has recently returned from one of the world's biggest geoscience conferences with his son. And not just returned and survived, but actually really enjoyed the experience. Is that fair to say, Valentin?
Yeah, thanks, Becky. Thanks for the invitation to speak about this really important topic. Yeah, it was definitely a really good experience.
Wonderful. So, Valentin, maybe you could start by telling us a bit about EGU. What does it stand for? What is it? And why did you want to go?
Yes, sure. So the EGU conference, it stands for the European Geosciences Union Conference, and it's the biggest geoscientific conference in Europe. When I say biggest, sort of give some numbers. Last year there was 17,000 geoscientists. So yeah, it is quite really big. It's since few years held in Vienna in Austria, and I think in the near future it will continue to be there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I fully agree with what you say. I'm also quite a big fan of conferences in general, and I particularly like EGU. I know there are different people, right? Some prefer like small scale conference and some bigger scale. And I quite like EGU because I also a bit like what you say, it had strong impact on me, on my work, and it gave me opportunities in the past with people just contacting me directly at the conference for work collaborations and things like that. And I think it also helped to make publicity to your work and to spread the message of what you're doing. So yes.
Great. So now you have 2 children, is that right?
Yes, I do. I have 2 boys. I have Titouan, who is 4 years old, and Naël, who is one year old. And yes, of course, I fully agree with what you said as well. It's definitely different. But yes, there was this opportunity to be able to go at EGU with Titouan, with my bigger one, and maybe just after we'll say why it was particularly interesting to go at EGU. But I was quite excited by doing that. Yes.
Nice. So your job ordinarily involves a lot of field work. You do a lot of our field teaching. So how do you normally manage travel with children?
Yeah, so that's completely true. And it's not like throughout the entire year, right? It's mostly all in the same window in the year, so between like the end of March and early June. For both my teaching and my research, I go in the field. So for teaching, it always involves like 3 different field trip to different areas, and they are each like 10 to 12 days long in average. So I'm quite aware.
It's quite a long time.
Yeah, quite a lot of time in this period. And of course, EGU is exactly in this time window. It's every year in April or May. And so yeah, I didn't go to EGU or to any other conference, to be honest, since like before pandemic, for 5 years, and the mix of everything. Of course, pandemic is a good reason, but also the fact that the kids arrived, and yeah, when I'm away for field work, of course my wife has to care for the 2 kids, so it's a huge load on her. Sometimes we do have families that come and try to help, but they are all in France, so it's not so easy as well. We don't have a lot of people to help us.
And I guess those periods when you're away, you prioritize the field work because that's a major part of your job. The conference is almost something extra, so that doesn't get prioritized.
Yeah, you're completely right. Like fieldwork teaching, I definitely have to do that, right? But I can avoid a conference even if it's not optimal. I can definitely avoid it. So you're completely right. Additional thing.
So what was it about this particular EGU in this particular year that made you decide, well, right, this is the year I really want to go to this conference? Did you have something to present or somebody to see?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yes, I had a new paper published in a completely new domain for me, and I really wanted to go to EGU to present this work because I knew people that are used to work in this specific area were going to be there, so it was really the occasion for me to make new connections to people I don't know, and also like to present the work we have done to this specific community, and yeah, it was a really, really good opportunity for me. And in addition to that, I also saw that the EGU was not at the same time than fieldwork, because sometimes it happened in the past, so everything was like there for me to be able to go. Yeah.
Right, great. So what provisions do EGU provide for people bringing their children, and how did you find out about it? Did you know somebody who'd done it previously?
Yeah, so I have to be honest. The idea of when I thought, yes, maybe I would be able to go to EGU, it's because I knew that they had a free childcare service. So I knew that, how, I can't tell you, but I definitely knew they had one. And so I just Googled it, and effectively they are doing a childcare service area. So it's between the age of 1 and 12. So it's quite large. Right. We are not only speaking, that's why it's not a nursery, right? And they call that a childcare service area. It's from 1 year old. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's from 1 year old up to 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Last year at least it was that. I saw in the past that, yeah, it was 3 before, but definitely last year was 1 to 12. So it's quite from baby to like practically teenagers, right?
Sure.
And the EGU, so it's completely free of charge. You don't have to pay anything for that. And the EGU is working with a professional childcare provider in Vienna.
So the people there are all professionally trained, they have the right.
Yes, exactly. They are definitely professional in that. And the childcare area is within the conference center, which is very great and very useful as well. And even more, so EGU is big, right? I said 17,000 people, so you should expect to have different floors and a very big conference center. But actually, the room where I did my talk and where most of the interesting sessions were for me was at like 50 meters from the and sometimes I could hear Titouan like laughing
nice.
When I was in the room. So yeah, it was very, very close, and this was really useful.
Great. So how did the booking system work, and did you have to be ultra organized in order to get a space? How many spaces do they have?
Yes, so ultra organized. I'm not someone that is super ultra organized, but I would say yes and no. Anyway, you do have to be organized just to go to the conference, with or without kids, right? Everything happened months in advance, and deadlines are around in January to register and all of that. And the only thing is that you need to have pay the conference fee, so you need to have registered to be able to book a place at the childcare service, and it's as simple as just sending an email to them. So there is a specific web page on the EGU website where they tell us, contact us, and tell us what sort of days you would like. And how it works, it's because they do have, again, we can expect that, right? 17,000 people going there. Not everyone want to come with a kid, but still, it's a very huge population of a really huge amount of people. And they don't, I would say that the capacity, I don't know it, but from what I saw is around 20 kids, something like that, maybe 30 maximum, but not more than that. They have 3 little rooms, and they have classified that by age, I think, more or less. And so what they do is that you can't put your kid at the childcare area for the entire week. Okay, so they divide the day in 2 blocks that are just following the blocks of speaker sessions. So it's from 8:30 to 12:30 and from 2 to 6. So there are 2 blocks per day. The conference is from Monday to Friday, so there are 10 blocks in total. And what you can do is only book a place for 5 of these blocks.
Right.
So either you choose like the entire Monday and Tuesday and half another half a day. What I decided to do, because you book the place, you can start to book the place directly after you register, but at that time you don't know when your own like talk would be.
Course, yeah.
So I just book all the afternoon. without knowing anything. So I booked only the afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That were 5. And what happened is that, of course, my talk was in the morning. Of course, that would have been too simple. But it was as simple as just as soon as I knew that, I directly contacted them and sent an email. And it was on the Monday, and they moved my booking from the afternoon to the morning. So I think it's pretty easy. You do have to do that quite early. I think if you wait too long, because there is not a lot of place, it's fully booked. And the idea of having only 5 blogs that you can reserve is really
it's very fair.
It's fair, and it's to give the opportunity to as many parents as possible to have a place.
Great. So could you talk us through what a typical day at the conference looked like for you and Titouan?
Yeah, so as I booked the afternoon, to be honest, the session started at 8:30. Usually we were having a bit later in the morning, like around 9, something like that. And what I did is that I sort of checked the program really carefully and targeted really the talks I absolutely wanted to see every day in the morning. So we were going there. And sort of my, let's call it, tactic evolved during the week. Initially, I just came with Titouan without any toys or anything like that. Okay. And like he was able to listen 2 to 3, big maximum 4 talks.
But he actually listened to some talks?
Yes,
wow.
He was able to sit on my knees quietly, and the talks are 8 minutes long, so let's say maximum half an hour,
That's
25
like a Bluey
minutes.
episode.
Yeah, but it was like, then the last one, he was always, when it is finished and everything like that. So then what I did in the next morning, I bring toys.
Right.
So I bring toys. I was able, depending on the room, of course, but for the big rooms, it was really easy for him to be at the back of the room, to be able to play a little bit. And then we increased maybe to 4 talks, something like that.
Okay.
And really towards the end, one colleague of me that I saw and told me, I was just using the iPad and they were watching cartoon. I said, how on earth did I not think about that? And so he was at really big in the end. I had a session I wanted to see like 1 hour. It was really, really the interesting session for me. And he was able to look for cartoons like for 45 minutes or 1 hour on my knees. And he was absolutely silent.
Perfect.
So that was the idea. And then we just went to visit the poster halls as well. And this was absolutely fine. Absolutely no problem. I think because there are people everywhere. And Titouan loved to have his tea, his mint tea at the break, because like around 10 a.m. something like that, 10:30 there is a break tea. He loved that. And there are lots of animations as well. So they are not there for kids, they are there for scientists. Right. But like he was able to go at the NASA stand and he had a NASA sticker, a NASA logo, a NASA tattoo. At the ESE stand, we were able to take photos of ourselves. He was able to wear a virtual reality mask, this sort of thing. And he loved every piece of that. That was really great. So more or less, in the morning, that's what we were doing. Of course, in comparison to like going a morning without a kid, that was completely different, right? I saw only maybe like 20% of what I would have seen, but I really targeted what was really important for me. And I think at the end, you know what? I get the sort of the same amount of information that I would have been able to remember.
I mean, sometimes watching 4 talks in a row is enough for me on my own.
No, that's completely right. And at the end of the day, if you think, okay, what can I remember of everything I saw, you don't remember everything. So that was okay. And then for lunchtime, the conference center is really well placed because there is a big park just really next to it, like 5-10 minutes walking distance, with some very nice playground. So we were going to the park often slightly before 12, 11:30, something like that. He was able to play. We had like a picnic or something like that in the park. And at 2 we're going back, and he was going to the childcare area. And I had my afternoon then entirely free until up to 6. And 6, usually there is a bit of a, how do we call that? All the posters, and people can get together with a beer and a drinks or something like that. And then Titouan was here with us and having a lot of fun with PhD students and things like that. So that was a nice thing. Yeah.
So what facilities were actually in the childcare centre? What kind of toys did they have, or did they play games or do art with the children? What did they do?
So they do have three different rooms, and something that he did quite a lot was like pieces of artwork or something like that. He came every day with like a plate, a decorating plate or something something like that. I don't think they went out, but they can. They clearly told us that because the weather was not really nice, but otherwise they go to the park as well, so they can go out as well. But I don't think they did.
Nice. So, I mean, one thing that always concerns me is my son has severe food allergies, so childcare settings with food is always a concern. How did the meals work in this setting?
So I think to simplify their life probably is that there is no food provided at the childcare service area, because the blocks are like 8:30, 12:30 and 2 to 6. In all cases, you do have your kids with you for lunch. It's true that Titouan was really hungry usually at 6, but I just bring a sandwich and with me and he was fine. So there is no
so
problem with that. They don't have any food delivered at the nursery.
And it sounds like your son enjoyed the experience. Do you think it's made him want to become a scientist?
That's a really good question. And of course, I don't have the answer to that, but he really loved it. He loved it from the first second when he get his own badge. So the first thing you do usually when you arrive at the conference is to take your badge. And Titouan has his own badge, and it was not an option. It was compulsory. And he just loved it. He had the same badge as me, and he was so proud of that. And we came the day before it started on the Sunday, so sort of everything was empty. I felt that this was quite important. He was able to see where was the conference center, where was the childcare area, even if we didn't see the room, everything was closed. But I think it was quite important, and he was fine then to go to the childcare area. It was not the same experience for all parents. I did see some kids that were like crying, but then like probably they do the same at nursery as well, right? And they are childcare professionals, so I think for most people everything went well.
I was going to ask you, would you do this if Titouan was a bit younger? Or do you think 4 is the right age to start?
That is a really good question. I really think I did it because I know that I was expecting it to be okay with Titouan. I'm not entirely sure I would do that with Nael, who is 1 year old now, a bit more. It would be possible, right? Because it's from 1 year old. Mostly, maybe not for like having worries about the childcare area, more for the outside, because having Titouan was big enough. I was able to do a lot of things when he was with me, either in the morning, as I explained, but also in the evening, right? Traditionally, when you're at conference in the evening, it's not the end of the day. You do go with colleagues. Usually you do together, and sort of that's often where the collaborations really are happening. And we were still able to do that, of course not every day, because Titouan is 4 years old, right? But I tried to do that on one day, then we sort of rest the day after, and then doing that again, and it worked quite well. But with Nael, 1 year old, that will be less. So I think you can still do it, but maybe you will have even to reduce your expectations of what you will be able to do.
Right. Great. Well, it's wonderful that the childcare is free, but obviously there are expenses involved, not least the flight to go there. So is there any financial support provided by Imperial or the department? What's available?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So initially I wasn't thinking about that. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of any anything that Imperial was doing. But actually there is something. So it's called the carer support. And in my case, it was possible to reimburse for the flight tickets of Titouan. So this carer support is here to support carers. There is a maximum amount of £250, something like that. And something that it can apply for is travel cost. And so, because the nursery was free of charge, I didn't have any cost associated with that here. It was possible to reimburse me the cost of Titouan's flight, which I think is really great.
Would you do it again? Do you already have any trips lined up?
Yes, of course. I'm really I want to be fair with the kids, so I definitely think I will bring Nael as well. But you see, I think I will wait him to be probably around this age. I don't know. But now everything went very well with Titouan. So I think I'd like to reproduce the same thing. I'm really happy to do another podcast after Niall in like 2-3 years
you back,
to tell you if it was the same. But yeah, overall it was a really good experience with Titouan, and yeah, I would love to do that with Niall. And of course, 4 years old is great because it's just before they start school.
Right, of course.
And when they start school, then it's sort of too late because usually not happening during the school holidays. So it's really, I think, a good moment to do that.
So that's a great top tip to get it in before they start school. Do you have any other top tips for people who might be considering doing the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. So I think probably the most important, and then I can say a few more detailed ones, but the most important one, I think, is to be aware before to go that it will not be the same experience than going to a conference without a kid. And I was aware of that. I was expecting that already. And then just take it as a plus. If your kid is able to see 2 different dogs, take it, that's great, right? And I think it's one thing. And then EGU, I think, was very well as well for a first experience. So childcare service was easy to book, easy to put in place. The fact that there is a park just next to it was a huge help as well. Like Titouan is a kid that needs to be outside in the day, so at least like 2 hours before we go to the childcare area, he was able to be outside to play, and that was quite important. And yeah, probably the most important one is be already expecting that it will not be the same experience, and everything, at least for me, it went very well.
Manage your expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Valentin, for joining us in the podcast and sharing your experience with us, and providing some really useful advice for others thinking about doing the same thing. I think I might follow your advice and maybe give it another couple of years before I take Ethan on his first conference, but certainly some food for thought.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Vicky. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentin. Great. Well, we hope that you've enjoyed this first ESE EDIC podcast, and we would love to hear from you if you would like to be interviewed on a topic in the broad equality, diversity, inclusion and culture area, or if you would like to interview someone else, if you've got an idea for a topic to discuss, or if you would like to volunteer someone that you would like to see interviewed. So to get in touch with us, please contact Sophia Quasi, the ESE EDI coordinator, or me, Rebecca Bell. This episode was produced by Rebecca Bell, Valentin Laurent and Sophia Quasi. Please see our website for links to related articles.